Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on April the 24th, 2019. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, just shooting the breeze,
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will be discussing the games that we played this week. City of Heroes Secret Server War continues. Anthem Update 1.1 is now live. Numerous Act 1 calendar events have been delayed. Mortal Kombat 11 has some microtransaction shenanigans. We will have a weekly community corner discussing game night as usual, and a Steam weekly discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
Astute listeners.
Yeah, we've been pretending that we just started talking.
Hey, yeah, it was like 2 minutes ago, not an hour and a half ago that we started talking. But tonight's show is going to be short. Couple of reasons. Number one, it's a very light week. Both of us have been focusing pretty heavily on Stardew for Game Club, so we didn't get a lot of other games played. And then also, it's Wednesday night instead of Tuesday night. I'm not going to tell the whole story on air, but I had a bad day on Tuesday, and I just was like, I would be in a very grumpy mood to do this podcast Tuesday night. So I took the night off.
Part of me kind of regrets letting you have the night off just to have grumpy Jared. So I could be the good cop for once, but just by my natural position instead of just being good.
I feel like you might try and still overpower me though on the grumpiness factor. I don't know. I guess we would.
I would take it as a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Like, have to prove your dominance. But yeah, so we didn't record last night, so we're doing it tonight, which I guess to you in the future, dear listener, doesn't matter, but
oh no, well, it matters in show length.
That is true. But yeah, we've been sitting around talking for an hour and a half roughly.
Franken content.
Yeah, we did get some good Franken content, which can always use more of that. But yeah, how's your week been, Rach?
It's been all right. Well, like I said, I've been focused mostly on Stardew Valley. I think I'm on pace for where I want to be for Game Club, which was completing 1 year, which is, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's every day is like, 15, 20 minutes, and there's 20.
Well, that's assuming that you're not skipping, because you could just, water your crops and go to sleep, but honestly, that feels like it's missing the point of Stardew Valley.
I don't know. It feels a lot like real farming, though. Having grown up on a farm and done lots of real farming, it's like wake up way too early, deal with all the plants, and it's like, God, I'm tired. I just want to go to sleep now. So, realism, I guess. Realism. Yeah, I'm just starting the summer season.
I'm halfway through the summer season.
Yeah, I've played it. I've averaged probably about an hour a day for once I started playing it. I didn't really play it the first week of the month, but I lost. I told you this. I don't remember if I mentioned it on air last week or not, but there was something that went wrong with my Steam cloud save, and so I lost a bunch of progress. Like, I don't know, 5 or 6 in-game days worth of progress. So not like terrible, but that was like one whole day's worth of playtime that I had to redo.
Yeah, I lost a little bit of playtime, but that's mostly due to me messing around with the Steam Link, because there's just something about it that it doesn't want to grab the PlayStation controller properly. No, just this particular game. It seemed like it wants to only use my old Xbox 360 controller. That the sole purpose of it nowadays is to turn on the Steam Link.
Right.
Because for those who don't know, the Steam Link doesn't have buttons on it.
It does not.
So,
is there any version of it that does? Because it went through like 1 or 2 revisions. If you build one,
you get a Raspberry Pi, it would have a button. But remember, I I got mine when it was already discontinued.
Yeah.
So, I have the latest version, or the last version, I guess I should say. But in order to turn it on, you have to plug a controller in and press the home button.
I think mine has a switch on the back of it. Just
Mine
toggle
doesn't.
switch.
Mine has no switches on it.
Not even a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, even though there are some interesting rumors about Nintendo going around. Not enough to really talk about, but supposedly there's going to be a new version of the Switch.
Yeah, I've heard that. It's supposed to be smaller and cheaper, I think.
Well, I haven't seen any thing about the size, but I have seen that it's going to be cheaper, which is interesting. I'm not sure if how I feel about smaller, though, because it seems like the Switch is about the right size for a portable tablet or whatever you want to call it, unless it leads to a lot better battery life. Because doesn't it have just a few hours?
Yeah, I think its battery life is only like 3 or 4 hours on a full charge on a brand new battery. I don't remember exactly, but I remember people playing about it.
Well, it depends on what you're playing as well. It has a range of 2.5 to 6 hours, depending on the game and graphics requirement and that sort of thing. And also, some games, they downscale the resolution whenever it's in tablet mode. So maybe that's part of the reason.
Yeah, I know Breath of the Wild does that. Because I remember people saying like it runs at a smoother frame rate when it's in handheld mode because it scales it from 1080 to 720.
The Switch can't have that big a battery, though. It only takes 3.5 hours to charge.
It's probably, I'm going to say maybe 1500 milliamps.
Just based off that stat?
Yeah.
Well, let's find out. Welcome to the Switch portion of the podcast. Okay, that's a lot bigger than I was thinking, but still pretty small for a gaming console. 4310 according to this, lithium ion.
Oh, wow.
So that's a ballpark what my phone runs.
Yeah, my phone's battery is only 3,500 milliamps. I was thinking it would be a lot less, but I suppose it would need a lot more juice for all of the, the graphicing and the things. So
yeah, to be fair, I don't use my phone for mobile gaming that much. Usually at home, and whenever I'm at home, there's no reason for me to be putting wear on the battery, so I have it plugged in.
Yeah.
But speaking of mobile games,
well, actually, I have my story this week. Speaking of things that require power. So we were playing.
What, your unending rage, or?
Yes. So we were playing Rocket League for this week's community game night game. And we were coming towards the end of time anyways. And my power goes out. Or so I think at first. So, we're playing. My whole room goes dark.
Yeah, I have to admit, we had a good chuckle whenever I shared that news.
Yeah. So, my whole room goes dark. So I'm thinking, my power went out. So I texted you really quick. I was like, hey, my power went out. I'm probably done for tonight. But then I noticed, hey, my Wi-Fi hasn't disconnected. That's strange. So then I go peek into the kitchen because the light is off. But, there's still some things that light up if there's power, obviously, like the clock on the stove and the microwave and the fridge light. And all that was on. So it's
a very localized blackout.
Indeed, very. So I grab my my phone, flip on the flashlight, go to the breaker box, and the breaker is tripped for my office. I'm like, well, that's not good. So
that's on the list of bad things.
So I reset the breaker. I come back over to my desk, and everything seems to be back on. I go to turn on my PC, nothing. Push the power button, nothing. I flip the power supply off, waited, flipped it back on, power button, nothing. And then I stopped for a second, wires. And I'm like, that smells like burning. That's not good. So
turn off the power again.
I think that's when I texted you and was like, well, that wasn't my power went out. And I wasn't sure if there was a power surge and it fried my power supply. Seems unlikely, but it could be possible. Or the more likely case is that my power supply gave up the ghost, and when it did, it tripped the breaker in my office, and everything went out.
That's you can't fire me. I quit.
Yeah. So my gaming PC is obviously a custom built rig that had a 600 watt power supply in it, and even though I've got like 6 computers here at the house, they all are built from like pre-made office computers, or even a couple of custom PCs that I have made. They've been budget conscious. So they've never needed anything more than, say, a 350 or 400 watt power supply anyway. So even though I've got a small mountain of power supplies, there's nothing in my house that could power my gaming PC. So I'm starting to feel pretty defeated, like fuck. And then I remember, oh yeah, my home server PC was one that I built, and I gave it a sturdier power supply because it was intended to be on all the time. So I go and I look at my home server PC, and it's got a 500 watt power supply, and I'm like, that might be enough. So I go and I look on PC Part Picker and do like the little calculations thingy, and it's enough. And I've got some overhead, not as much overhead as I had, and I have a tendency to continue to throw shit at my PC anyways. But I went ahead and performed open heart surgery and killed my server PC so that I could stick my 500 watt power supply in my gaming rig, and that's working again.
So your server PC volunteered as tribute?
It did. It volunteered as tribute. So I'm looking to get a replacement power supply for it. Well, actually, a replacement power supply for my gaming rig, because I don't want to leave a 500 watt supply in there forever. Because, I mean, you said this earlier. I already knew it, though. But as they get older, they lose the ability, to provide the same amount of power.
The capacitors just age, and it's better to play it safe and just have a lot more overhead.
Yeah. So I had around somewhere between 150 and 200 watts overhead, and so I lost 100 watts right there. So between 50 and 100 watts overhead is what I've got, and that's a slight amount of overhead. That's cutting it a little close.
Yeah, and plus, it doesn't really account for huge spikes in power demand as well, which could damage the power supply.
Yeah, so I'm
That's why I always, whatever PC Part Picker suggests, minimum 25. Usually I'm 50% over.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get a new power supply either this week or next week. Like, I'm gonna order one, and then replace the power supply in my gaming rig with that one, and then put the other power supply back in my server machine, and call it a day on that. Thankfully, nothing else fried, because my anxiety shot. Yeah, as far as I know, I mean, stuff could be damaged but still working, but as far as I know, nothing else is dead. I mean, it seems to be working fine. I've played some games on it since then. Obviously, I'm using it to record the podcast tonight.
Wait, you are?
Yes. But I had massive panic. It was like midnight when I had this realization, and I was like, I know I won't sleep tonight if I don't do this right now. So I got to do it. So, at midnight, I start the tear down and the rebuild process, and it's like 1
You
in the
put on
morning.
your allergy mask to pretend to be a surgeon.
Yeah, it was like 1 in the morning.
You put on some Weird Al.
No, I did it quietly, just with the hum of the fan and the air conditioner.
Now, did you pay the blood tribute?
No, actually, I did not.
Your computer's doomed.
I did myself an insulin shot before I started because I'd forgotten to give it to myself earlier. No, it doesn't count.
Yeah, it has to be unintentional.
Wow, I did not hurt myself. I lost 2 screws. I don't know where those are.
Oh, don't worry. They're rattling around in the case. They'll short out something randomly.
Yeah, I lost 2 case screws. So, but I mean, the power supply screws are the same size as they just don't have the big head where I can turn them with my thumbs. So,
the nice thumb screws.
Yeah, but I had a couple of extras. So I've got anyone who wants a dead 600 watt power supply. It's sitting right there, next to me. Maybe I'll take a picture of it. I don't know if anybody cares.
No, you sell them on Facebook for $500.
600 watt power supply. Slightly used. Smells of burning. It's probably the podcast title for this week. Smells of burning. I mean, actually, definitely. I'm going to put it up here, and then if something better comes along, or place it. But,
I smell burning.
That's my story for the week. My tech story. So.
Yeah, I just played Stardew Valley, and, well, a mobile game.
Yeah, tell me about that mobile game, what you played.
So, I played a roguelite on mobile, so this should be interesting already, called Soul Knight. And I'm not 100% sure what I think about this, because there's some things I really like about it, but there's other things that I don't. It's a single stick shooter. It's not a twin stick shooter, because it's an auto aim feature in it, which is part of the reason why I actually decided to try it out, because I gotta admit, I'm terrible at on-screen touch control. So this felt like some training wheels to get a feel for them. And It's interesting. It has a fairly authentic feel for a roguelite, but just miniaturized, where all the floors are between 5 and 8 rooms instead of the usual 10 to 15 for a PC version of it. But there's the usual mobile shenanigans, and it's not as bad in some aspects, but it's worse in others. So let's just go ahead and get monetization out of the way, because that's pretty much what you have to talk about first in these Steam things, right?
Right.
So, like most roguelites, this has a fairly large roster of characters. And I would say about 1/3 you're able to unlock with the currency that you earn via progression, which that's the overarching progression system is you earn currency. And you can also earn currency by watching ads and that sort of thing. The rest are flat pay transactions. And it's $1 or $2 per character, and there's, I want to say, 10 different ones. There's a bunch of reskins of the different characters as well. Some of them you can unlock with currency. Some of them are real money transactions. So it's one of those things that, I'm saying they're tabulating everything. I'm thinking, well, it'd be much cheaper if I go find a pay-for version of a roguelite and play it instead, just tabbing through everything. But that's kind of been my overall realization on playing a lot more mobile games in the last month or so, is that, free is, well, not really the way to go to be an enjoyable game for the long term, because, even Grand Prix Story, immediately after I stopped to talk about it, it turned on me. But it's more of, just how much you could stomach it, really.
Free-to-play games, particularly mobile ones, the cost is always psychological.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there tabulating. I'm thinking, wow, this is up to like $30 just in the character roster, because it has a pet system, which is interesting. You always have a pet that follows you around that acts as decoy and does some minor damage, but you're able to grow some in a garden that has a real-time clock on it, essentially. And that's also where you get resources for the another subsystem of the progression system, or not really progression system, but some of it is, but some of it is also a way to go into a challenge mode with a lot better odds, just because you're able to forge weapons after you find them 8 times. So if you find a particular gun 8 times, you then learn the recipe for it, so you can take the items that you've acquired over the time you played, forge it, and take it into a challenge mode, which is an interesting way to do it. I haven't seen it done quite like that, but it's a way to kind of game the system in going into a more difficult encounter, or trying to beef up a character that is a bit weak, because the level up system seems to really favor you switching out characters, and each character has their own different power, which is on a timer. Like the starter one the knight, he pulls out essentially a second copy of the gun and dual wields, doubling his firepower for a short time. I unlocked the rogue, which he has essentially enter the dungeon's dodge roll as his power, just not on anywhere close to that timer. It's something like a 10-second timer. So yeah, it's interesting on the various characters, and various characters are more suited to various challenges, and it seems like even floor sets. There seems to be like, I would say 3 different sets of floors that you could have for the first group of levels, the first 5. And then the second one seems to be about the same. I have about, I would say about a 1 in 5 success rate on going through the first set because of just shenanigans. Because, well, that's my big beef with the game, is that it seems to really, really be streaky. Because the floors are so small, you don't have, well, I'm going to draw the analog between it and Binding of Isaac, because that's sort of the gold standard for the roguelike genre still. Binding of Isaac always had, on standard floors, an item room and a shop to a certain extent in the game, all right? Because the floors are so small in this, you have either an item shop or a treasure room. And it's very rare to see a gun drop or a weapon drop outside of that treasure room. So there's been times that I would go all the way to the first boss and see maybe 1 gun, and you could carry 2 guns unless you get a power-up in between floors, which I'll get to in a little bit. So, it's very streaky. And sometimes the shop doesn't even have a gun. Sometimes they'll have a melee weapon, which I found to be suspect to use at best, just because of how the game handles its invincibility frames, or how it handles its health system, which is also a oddity. So let's just go on to that. If you look at the screenshots for this, you'll notice, oh look, there's 3 bars instead of what you would expect. There's health, but what's that second bar? That's armor. The game has a shield mechanic that is just strange. So each character has armor in the form of a regenerating shield. Think of almost like a sci-fi game, even though this obviously isn't sci-fi.
Okay.
Where as you take hits, you essentially deplete your armor, or I'm just going to call it shields. Once it hits 0, then you start taking health damage. But there's no shield gating, so there was a couple times that I went from full health to dead just because I got a very bad situation. There's no invincibility frames whatsoever. There's no shield gating. So even though you do have more health than what you would think going in, you have to play the game extremely conservatively. And because it has an auto-aim system on it, various guns have various hit chances, essentially, which is just essentially a forced miss chance. But it also makes shotguns also a lot more powerful. I would say this has some of the more powerful shotguns I've seen in roguelites, just because of that forced miss. Because the shotguns have, an arc of fire instead of just, what shotguns usually do in video games, which is, a very concentrated, but big hit. So that's a bit of an oddity with it as well, is that it seems to have shotguns be very powerful just because of that aiming mechanic, and the fact that the game doesn't run on the ammo system as you may expect. I mentioned Enter the Gungeon, where all the guns have their own independent ammo pools.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has a shared energy pool, with each gun, essentially, the more powerful the gun, the more energy it takes. And if you deplete your energy, you switch to a very, very basic melee weapon. Because there's no invincibility frames, if you don't kill an enemy within a hit or 2, it's going to hit you back. So I was less than enthused on using that option, or pretty much any melee weapon that doesn't do some sort of like energy wave or something off of it, which was a little disappointing to me just because of that energy mechanic. And usually melee weapons are very cheap to use or free to try to counterbalance the risk of it. And usually melee weapons have some sort of like dash mechanic going towards the enemy. But just because this is, I would say, pseudo bullet hell with some of the bosses. Some of them are just, just completely fills the screen with bullets that you have to dodge and then try to, snipe off a couple shots while in the eye of the storm, essentially. But because they don't have an aiming mechanic, it allows you to focus more on dodging. So, maybe that's a counterbalance there. But another power-up mechanic I mentioned was the buff mechanic. In between certain floors, you get a choice of 3 buffs, and they can be pretty mundane, just 50% off shops, which there are vending machines as well that you run into occasionally that you can buy one item from at random, which it works for it as well. But the 50% off shops is a very useful thing, just because it seems like the game loves to replace the treasure rooms with shops, or in some runs, I should say. But then there's more interesting ones like bullets can bounce. There's changes to how energy beams work, how shotguns will gain extra bullets essentially in their per shot. So it's the way the shotguns work. It's instead of a concentrated area, it shoots out an arc of bullets. It would add more to that. So the power-ups are actually fairly decent. And then it could also, there are some more ridiculous weapons. And probably my favorite is one that you would absolutely love. All right?
Okay.
It's a unicorn.
Okay.
A plush unicorn. And it shoots rainbows.
Nice.
Out of its ass.
Kind of like Mr. Toots from what game was that? Red Faction Armageddon, I believe.
Yeah,
Mr. Toots was a unicorn that shot farts, rainbow farts.
I was going to say like butt stallion.
Yeah.
But there's some more fantastical weapons. There's just looking at the screenshots, there's lightning guns that arc between enemies, but because the game doesn't give you any information on the weapons whatsoever outside of the very base stats, it's sometimes tough to really tell what the weapons do until you actually use them. Which I know you're going to say, yeah, but that's kind of standard for roguelites. Not to this extent. I mean, even using Binding of Isaac, whenever you pick up an item, it gives you a hint of what it does. Like, I got a bow and arrow, which is a charged attack. The bow and arrows felt like sort of the way to play the game, because you build up a charge attack and kind of just dodge and take a good shot. But I got one that had a piercing arrow that would arc towards another enemy to try to get a 2-for-1 special. But it mentioned nothing about it in flavor text whatsoever, at least as far as I could tell during gameplay. So that's one detriment to it. And also just because of how crazy it could get, it's very easy to lose track of your character. And also, if you're using a weapon like the rainbow, or I should say, I shouldn't say shooting, I should say shedding, the rainbow shedding unicorn, it overwrites the enemy projectiles with a rainbow, so you can't see them incoming. So there was several times I was hit because I couldn't see the enemy projectiles for the unicorn rainbow. Boy, there's a sentence I never thought I would say.
Couldn't see the projectiles for the unicorn rainbow. Best sentence ever.
And also there were some odd bugs, like there was a mount system. Occasionally you could run into a guy that sells you a mount, which essentially is a movement speed buff and a secondary health bar for a short time. Well, until it dies, which usually is a short time for me because I'm not particularly good at the game. But whenever I was riding it, I noticed that my head would start clipping into the wall. It wasn't drawing the layers of the world properly. It was putting me under the wall layer, and it was one of those things. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Progression overall, it's very front ended, but that's kind of how it is with mobile games, isn't it? The
Yeah.
first few playthroughs, there's quite a bit of progression, and then it slows down quite a bit after, I would say, about an hour or two. Enough for, I would say, about a half a dozen runs. Runs up to the first boss is in the 10-minute range. So based on the progression screen at the end of the run, I would say overall, a full run, if the lower levels aren't larger, somewhere in the ballpark of 30 to 35 minutes, give or take, which isn't bad for a mobile game. Trying to think of anything else in particular. There is an upgrade system for the various characters that uses the game currency that you earn. Oh, I will say this, that they are kind of generous with the ads. It seems like they don't force you to watch any ads unless you choose to, for either getting more currency, getting a secondary life, or to unlock a item from the vendor in the opening area. It has an opening area, sort of like Enter the Gungeon does, where it's kind of everybody just hanging around chilling. Yeah. But also because it's a mobile game and it uses sort of the world like Enter the Gungeon does, but it doesn't highlight everything. So there was quite a while that I went without upgrading some of my stats or some of my starting position, just because it wouldn't highlight, okay, well, the fridge you could walk up to and open it up and upgrade the amount of money you start with. Or going over to that treasure chest that's hidden next to the doorway. If you open up that, you'll sometimes have a fairly decent weapon in there to start with as a secondary. So, it has a lot of style to its world, but at the same time, it feels muddled because it has a lot of details, but it doesn't highlight what you could interact with and what you can't. Which sounds like I'm nitpicking, but oh well, right?
Yeah. What else is new for us?
What, me nitpicking a game? No.
You would never.
Also, just because of the way the game handles its essentially one stick shooter, and it uses the fire button for alternate things as well. So if you go up to a chest, the fire button opens up the chest. If you run over a consumable, the fire button uses the consumable. And the starting lobby, going up to the garden, using the fire button picks up the watering can, and then using the fire button while you're in a very particular spot, waters the plants in your garden to grow for either resources or secondary pets or that sort of thing, or temporary buffs. But I found it to be fiddly at times. Not all the time, but enough to be annoying, but not so much that it's a complete detriment. It's just, there were a few times that I ended up using some rather precious energy. I would have, they had a gun called the Soul Caliber. Gee, I wonder where they got that name. That
Soul Caliber.
It was a very high damage but high energy weapon. And ended up using up a fair amount of energy because I was trying to break open a chest, but I was just like one pixel off, so I ended up burning 18 energy. And considering that the starting knight only has an energy pool of 180, that's pretty important, right?
Yeah.
And there's no regeneration unless you find it in chests or just get it off of enemies that drop. Or you get a skill that gives you some sort of regeneration, like energy will sometimes regenerate when killing an enemy, or health does the same way. There's a level up for that as well. I found it interesting, but it's one of those things that I'm not sure if I want to play it anymore, just because I'm starting to slow down on it already after playing it for just a couple hours. But it's interesting if you're into roguelites and you want to have something on mobile that's decent. I will say that the skill up that gives you a third weapon slot is clumsy at best because it doesn't add a secondary UI element. So instead of being able to swap between two weapons very quickly, you're swapping between three weapons pretty slowly just by hitting the same button over and over.
Okay.
I don't
Excuse
think
me.
there's anything else. There's little hints of humor, but it's not like Enter the Gungeon that feels like it's built for it. It feels like it's kind of just sprinkled here and there, which is a shame because whenever it gets ridiculous, it's fun. But yeah, I think I'm going to be pretty much done with it after this.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't sound like something I'd be super interested in. Maybe if it wasn't on mobile.
Yeah, that's kind of thing is that as I was playing it, I was thinking, this would be a pretty good twin stick shooter on PC because it has enough style to it. It has an interesting weapon mechanic where it's around the energy system, and it leads you to be more conservative, and it doesn't make it where if you find a weapon that's more powerful, it doesn't make it automatically better. It makes you sit there and kind of weigh the pros and cons. It's like, okay, well, I could pick up the shotgun of ass kicking, but that's 5 energy a shot. Can I make that back? Because at the end of each room, you get a small bit back in a treasure chest. But sometimes that gives you a potion instead, which sometimes is not good to get a health potion whenever you're at full health. And
Can you save them, or do you have to use them right then?
You could save them. There's nothing like Enter the Gungeon where if you leave something for too long, it disappears. But remember, the floors are pretty tiny.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I would say it's definitely not going to unseat Binding of Isaac, but I would say that it's decent enough if you're a fan of the genre and just want something on mobile.
Gotcha. I saw in one of the Google reviews, it was one of the top ones, that it was compatible, or it had controller support, or was compatible with Bluetooth controllers.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to unlink my PlayStation controller because last time I did that, I had a hell of a time getting it relinked to my PC.
Gotcha.
So I didn't want to risk it, and also it was also seeing what it could do with on screen, since that's one of the main selling points. Is where is it on here? It's no, it was saying that auto aim system makes for intuitive on screen controls. Auto aim system for super intuitive control. So I decided to test that.
Gotcha.
But they tend to throw enough random encounters in it that are things that change up things that it didn't feel like it was getting stale anytime soon. It's just the progression system. It's the first character, the rogue, or I should say the cheapest one. It doesn't have to be the first. Was 2,000, and then I think the next one is something like 5 or 10,000. I know the top end one that I could unlock with the gems, which you could also pay for the currency, of course, was something like 20,000. And a successful run for me was netting about 200. So I was looking at about, it took me about 20 runs to get the rogue, but that's also, sometimes it was a lot more, sometimes it was a lot less, just because of just how roguelites work. And also the scoring mechanic was actually pretty generous at times. It factored in both the time you played, how far you got, and also your excess money. So if you had a lot of money left over, it would actually boost your score a fair bit. That's why the 50% off buff was actually a lot more strong than you would otherwise think, because it helps with your overall progression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say
Cool.
decent, but it's nothing that would keep me playing for quite a while. But then again, that I have Enter the Gungeon and Binding of Isaac that I could go back to.
Yeah. Still need to play Enter the Gungeon.
Yeah.
So yeah, you had one game this week. I also had one game this week.
Yeah, you're retreading on some ground.
Yeah, you have previously played and discussed this game. It is Train Valley 2.
Yeah,
I've
I
had
can't
this for
really remember what I said about it. I think it was decent, but it didn't really grab my interest.
Yeah, I've had this game for a while. I haven't played it. Nothing against it. I played the first one. I liked the first one. But I got this review key for this a while ago, like long before it was actually like available on Steam. Because according to this, it was only released April 15th, and I think I had it back in
Yeah, I think I had a pre-release copy.
I had it in February, I think, and I just have never gotten around to playing it. And then a couple of days ago, maybe over the weekend, King was like sitting here with me. We were trying to decide like what game to play, and he saw it just because there was an update for it. And so he saw it in my update queue, and he was like, "Oh, have we played that train game before, Daddy?" I was like, "No, we have not. I don't know how much you'll like it. It's more of a puzzle game than the type of train games we usually play, but, it had a train on it, so we had to check it out."
I mean, it says True 2 on the Steam store page, so it has to be good, right?
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, Train Valley 2 is more of a puzzle game. You're given a level, and the basic goal is to deliver whatever goods a city needs to complete that level. And there might be multiple steps in the process. Like for the first one, you just need like to deliver some wood to the city, and that's like a one-step thing. Send workers from the city to the woodcutter, and then send the logs from there back to the city. And you start with just two, I believe it's 2 trains, and then you can buy more trains as you progress through to allow you to complete levels faster. You can get upgraded trains. There are different eras. So there's like a steam era and then an industrial era where that you start to see like diesel trains and things like that. It goes all the way to the space era. There's 50 levels, and we've only
What, you get space trains?
Unfortunately, no. But you do, like, the final level is to build a spaceship, the Mars colonization ship. I mean, we're not there. I haven't seen it, but like I looked up sort of what it was. We've only completed the first 5 levels. And as you go, they get more complex. They start to add things. So initially, it's pretty flat, and the goal is basically just collect so much money, and don't run out and lose. It does a star system thing for the levels, and you can unlock various cosmetic changes to your trains and other things via the stars. So you collect your first 10 stars, and you get like a second version of the starter train, and it just looks different. It doesn't have any stats or anything, but it looks like every single one of the trains has got 3 different sort of skins for it that you unlock just based on how many stars you have. So anyways, that's how the levels give you objectives, and beating it is 1 star, and it doesn't look like there's any sort of requirements to progression like there would be in like a mobile game or something. It's just more stars gives you more rewards. But it starts simple. You have a very flat level without too many features, only a small number of goods you have to deliver, and then it adds more layers of goods, maybe something that requires sort of 3 stops to get the final product to deliver to the city. And they add bridges on the level itself, and then you get the ability to construct bridges, and then you start getting levels with multiple cities that you can utilize, or that each require different sets of materials. And it's sort of a little puzzle to be like, okay, how do I create the most efficient?
You have to build the production chain essentially.
Yeah, and it's how do I create the most efficient way to do this? Because most of the levels, they've got like 2, maybe 3 bonus objectives, and then otherwise it's just complete the level, and then complete the level faster and faster for 1, 2, and 3 stars respectively. And I think each level has 2 bonus objectives, and it might be like do this using only 3 trains, or do this without having to delete any tracks. So you make a mistake, you have to delete some tracks. We'll do it without doing that. certain
especially
things like
whenever
that.
they throw a curveball at you in some levels.
Like, what sort of curveball are you
Uh,
thinking of?
if memory serves, didn't they eventually, uh, in some levels, have it where a secondary objective unlocks?
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. I don't know.
If
Maybe you
memory
got farther than I
serves,
have so far.
if memory serves, some point you start getting where there's a secondary objective that is after the first set.
Gotcha.
I could be mistaken on that one.
Yeah, I mean that might come in. Like I said, I just got the ability to build bridges.
And get over it.
And get over it. Major differences in this one compared to the first one, if you have played the first one, or maybe you're interested in the first one if you see it really cheap. The first one is purely a puzzle game where that you build a track layout and there are different stations that are different colors. And so you have to build a track layout that allows you to get as many trains as possible in a time limit to their destinations without crashing. And that's really it. The levels go up in complexity. You get additional tools to build tracks as time goes on. But this game focuses much more on, rather than just being as fast as you can, you've got the different layers of this production chain. So there's a little bit more to it. The puzzle's a little more complex. It calls it a tycoon game. It's not really, because when you think of tycoon games, you think of the various SimCity type stuff. You think of it, in this vein, having to do with trains. You think of Transport Fever, Train Fever, City Skylines, things like that. What?
I'm sorry. I'm on their store page and I looked at the latest posted negative review.
Yeah.
And there's a developer response to it that just got me chuckling. Basically, they were calling it a very lazy sequel to the first one. And the developer responded with a breakdown of levels, workshop levels, modes, objects, engines. And it's just just hilarious to me.
Yeah. Oh, and this one also has got, speaking of Workshop, I'd forgotten completely about that because I haven't tried it yet, but uses Steam Workshop for people to create their own levels for you to play through. So
yeah, I don't think it was implemented when I was playing it before.
Yeah, so if you like the key gameplay concept and you've beaten all 50 levels, and you 5-starred them or whatever, and you want more, well, there's custom maps that you can play on.
Yeah, 530 of them at the time of recording.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've missed. I mean, that pretty much covers the gist of it. It
sounds like there's various modes eventually, or modifiers to the maps as well, just based on what the developer responded with here. Special event levels, special mechanics, electricity, customs, marketing. So it sounds like eventually you have to deal with additional things outside of just building trains.
Well, maybe I have quite enjoyed it. I intend to play it some more. My kid likes to watch for a little bit, so he'll probably want to come back and play some more too. So that'll be extra motivation for me to keep going on it. But I like it, and I'd like to play it more. It's relaxing. That's the thing. It's a very relaxing puzzle game to play. You won't score as well if you don't rush to complete it, but really there's no rush. There's no sort of opposition. The only way to lose is if you basically run out of money and crash all of your trains, or maybe you do something like, fuck up a route and get yourself sort of stuck. But that's actually pretty hard to do and wind up in a position where you've played for 15 minutes and then it's like, oh, well, I fucked this up 15 minutes ago. Like, you figure out pretty quickly if you really messed up. Because I had a couple of times where that just learning like how different terrain, like if you're going up or down a steep grade, you can't turn, you have to go straight. So I didn't realize things like that initially. And it's like, okay, built a track and, oh, I can't turn here. Well, great. I'm out of money. So I'll just restart real quick. But I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about it. It's a cute, fun puzzle game.
When I played it was in very early access.
Yeah. But it's a very fun puzzle game. And if you like this type of puzzle, or if you like trains and you're looking to relax a little bit, it's definitely something I'd recommend. It's not super expensive. It's $15 without any sort of, discounts or anything. I feel like it's worth that. But again, it would, I'm sure, go on a really deep discount for big sales. I think the first one has gotten all the way down to like sub $5 level in the past. I'm actually going to pull it up here and see. Where you at?
I don't have Steam
History
Enhanced
thing.
installed for Firefox, so. But yeah, I mean.
Well, for some reason, it's not showing me the all-time low price.
Yeah, I just thought it was hilarious that the developer did a breakdown like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would hesitate to call it a tycoon game as well, from what I recall of it. I mean, for me, Tycoon is more about the management than anything else. And this is far too much on the puzzle side of things to be a Tycoon game, in my opinion. But that's kind of splitting hairs on it, isn't it?
Yeah, and it could be that it starts you out pretty easy and, works you into it. The later levels might have much more of the Tycoon aspect. We'll see when I get there.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z?
Next time on Dragon Ball Z. It's over 9,000. Alrighty. Well, that wraps us up for the games that we played this week.
Yeah, I only have an urge to go start watching Dragon Ball Bridged again.
Well,
brought to you by Heat Tap.
We've got enough sort of Franken content to write out the show. You could do that. I could go to bed early, I guess.
Yeah, you're not getting out of it that easily.
Darn. Oh, well. Alrighty. Well.
Yeah, the only way you're getting out of recording is you melt another major organ.
I don't want to do that.
Well, then on to the news.
To the news. Our first news topic of the night is a continuation of last week discussing City of Heroes. And we kind of editorialized a title for this, which is City of Heroes Secret Server War Continues.
Yeah, there was a couple of bits of interesting news. One is pretty much obvious what's going to happen when this sort of thing comes out, especially with NCSoft, is that the private server was shut down after what they quote doing the impossible, which is essentially keeping the game alive for this long and protecting it from the rights holders.
Shoot. I forgot to turn off my RPG alarm.
Yeah, your vibrator's going off.
My phone vibrates. There's something broken with the vibrate in my phone, and it vibrates way too hard.
Oh, my.
I know. But it's not fun. It's just like really annoying, the sound that it makes.
But yeah, I'm sorry around with the vibration functions on my phone, and they have interesting patterns.
Wink. So I just went and turned the second alarm off. So that won't happen again. Anyways, continue. My apologies.
So, as you may expect, the server shut down after getting a cease and desist from NCSoft. But they were talking about doing the impossible, which was, as far as I could tell, revitalizing this game and keeping it secret for so long. Unless I missed the meaning of doing the impossible.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so hard to keep anything a secret on the internet, or to keep anything, closed off. And we talked about this a little bit last week. You and I talked about this a little bit before we started recording. Like, what they did, lying to people like that, gaslighting people and whatnot, is not good. But at the same time, it's damn impressive that they managed to get a group of people to keep a secret for years on the internet.
Yeah, especially enough to make a MMO playable, because I've played on private servers before, or pirate servers, or whatever you want to call them. I toyed around with ones on WoW, and I've toyed around with ones in EverQuest.
Yep, I have two Star Wars Galaxies. They're Star Wars Galaxy.
And they always feel very empty because the world is built for a massive scale of people. And even whenever the game is built or retooled to be a lot more intimate for a smaller group, it still feels like it's lacking something. So the fact that they were able to get a population that's, made the game actually playable to this extent and keep it secret is impressive. Still kind of dicks with how they did it, but it's one of those things that, yes, you're a jerk, but I see where you're coming from on this.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting sort of roller coaster what happened, because it was, the secret was let out, and then they went and just released all of the code and everything online.
Yeah, well, not everything. That's the thing. They didn't release everything, but they had a leak before they got the cease and desist, because they knew the game was up, and it was pretty obvious that it was going to. They released the majority of their server code and the game code. They kept the mission information, which I'm not sure if they intended to do that or not, but what the hell. But they also didn't release the player database that they had a stolen backup of. So that's not floating around the internet, at least, which, that's good. Yeah.
But the end of the first article is like, no legal action has been taken yet. And then the next article is private City of Heroes server shuts down after, air quotes, doing the impossible. So they got the cease and desist and were shut down. But, I mean, the code's out there online, so good luck actually getting it all.
Yeah, I mean, once you get something like that leak, it's gone. Especially with how pissed people were when they discovered that there was a secret server and they weren't invited. Did you notice that in some of the comments for these articles and on Reddit?
Yeah,
people
I did.
Pissed that they weren't invited. So it's one of those things that, why are they sitting on this license? I mean, I understand that they have to protect their intellectual property, because the way copyright works is absolutely stupid in the modern era. It worked back in the day, but it doesn't really work now, just because of derivative works and everyone being a potential creator with wide distribution channels. But it's just so idiotic that they shut it down in the first place, but have just set it on it for the last decade, essentially.
Yep, rights squatters.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the fact that they say that they have to protect the game from NCSoft, the rights holders, kind of tells you the state of the modern. Well, I guess you could use the term modern gaming in this, because it is today, but still.
Postmodern gaming. That would not be correct. It would not be postmodern gaming.
What would be postmodern gaming?
Good question.
Let's see. Relating to or characterized by postmodernism, especially in being self-referential. Borderlands?
Maybe?
That's the thing, is that, postmodern is, kind of a very loose definition to begin with.
Huh. So, thesis statement. I believe the video game industry has reached an era of postmodern gaming. Essentially, it's reached the point in both technology and demand where superior technology in games is not the main cause of demand. This is a post from 2008. Just shorthanding, it's essentially making the argument that while graphics are still a pretty big driving force in games, that games are starting to become more and more artistic in nature, with things like indie games becoming more accessible via digital distribution. A lot more can be done with games in a more artistic standpoint than just creating a product to be sold. That's interesting, because this is back in 2008, so some of the language is... Because, it would be like on Steam now, but it's like digital distribution and talking about The evolution of PC gaming graphics cards. This is going to be. I'm going to come back and read this later. It's not
Now, are you
super
actually going to
long.
come back and read it, or
It's not super long, but it's too long to read the whole thing right here on the show. So I think it's like right there in a sweet
we
spot.
need some padding?
No, it's good. I'm gonna be getting sleepy soon, probably.
But yeah, this is just kind of a continuation, sort of the expected route this has taken. It's just really a shame how NCSoft is just. What are they working on these days? That's the thing.
I don't know.
Let's see, NCSoft Gaming, NCSoft Wikipedia, current ArenaNet. Oh, that's the subsidiaries. Let's see, they have not a lot actually. Guild Wars.
Yeah, they have Guild Wars 2.
Under ArenaNet, which is a former subsidiary. Oh no, it's a current subsidiary. So yeah, they have the Lineage games, Blade and Soul, and Aeon. So a bunch of MMOs. A mahjong game in Japan, and a dance rhythm game that I hadn't heard of. Love Beat. It's on Steam.
Love Beat.
Yeah. Boy, that looks terrible. Go look at that. It's a free-to-play rhythm game. Let's see. Under development is 2 Blade and Soul games, Aeon 2, Lineage 2, Blade and Soul 2.
Yeah, Love Beat does not look good.
Yeah. I think I've actually seen that before on the Discovery queue, and I skipped it because it looked terrible. Because this looks familiar. Or it just is so generic looking. That's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
You know it's not a good. You know it's not a good sign whenever half the screenshots are store pages.
Yeah, they definitely want you buying things in there.
Yeah, it's just NCSoft, but they had some really interesting games back in the day. I mean, they had WildStar, which, to be fair, WildStar is one of those games that probably should have spent more time in the oven, and then also released as a subscription game before, or in a post WoW world, and after the transition to free to play, and just never was able to make the jump. Tabula Rasa, about the same thing. City of Heroes. They killed it before stopped making a profit. Auto Assault. Oh boy, remember Auto Assault? That was actually a decent Auto Combat MMO from what I saw. I never got to play it.
Yeah, I didn't play it. Definitely didn't play it.
It was considered average according to critics, but that's kind of how MMOs start, huh?
Most of the time, yeah. Maybe all the time. But yeah. So NCSoft, not doing much that I'm really all that interested in.
Yeah,
I miss
pretty
WildStar.
Much. Yeah, I got to got a little bit more playtime in it, but it was one of those things that they tried a few things that was interesting, but it seems like they just couldn't get the population to sustain it. I wonder if they how it would have fared if they released it in the state that they had it in the free-to-play update. Or I should say as a free-to-play game instead of a subscription game. Because that seems to be the kiss of death these days.
Yeah. I don't know if it would have fared too much better in the long run, but I think it would have had a better start.
Well, that's the thing, is that MMOs, they really need hit a critical mass with their population in order to be sort of self-sustaining, and just have more people coming in than leaving. So if they get to hit that critical mass and not scared people off, and also, they also had a problem with just not producing content, or producing interesting content. They only had one raid dungeon, as far as I know. So that was kind of bad on them because there was nothing for the high-end raiders, which that's what they chased, wasn't it? The old school WoW raiders.
Yeah, that was the initial goal or target or whatever for the game.
Yeah, I think that was also a mistake on them. As an, well, not really an old school raider because I never did Molten Core back in the day, but as a WoW raider, chasing the bleeding edge of the WoW raiders, no, that's not going to sustain you. That's that demographic is locked into WoW until the next expansion. Then maybe they can be chased off,
only to return. But yeah,
only to return to a dead horse that we could beat.
Indeed, let's go beat a dead horse,
or a dying horse.
A zombie horse, an undead horse. Anthem update 1.10 is now live. Numerous Act 1 calendar events are delayed. So you can go read the full article in the link or one of the mini write-ups on Reddit if you want the full sort of take on the situation. But the shorthand for this is that, I mean, they fucked up. They know that they fucked up. And the game is in such bad shape that they're spending all of their time, instead of sticking to their air quotes roadmap and content releases and the next like story progression stuff, they're just having to fix the game and also put in very basic seeming systems. And lots of people are unhappy with that. But it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm not trying to defend them. You and I sort of had this basic conversation before we started recording. Because I was like, I mean, their two choices are halt content release to try and fix their mess, or ignore the mess and work on just releasing new content. And they're going to get yelled at for both things, no matter what they do. But they put themselves in this position. So I don't really have any sympathy for them. But
yeah, well, this is, really comes down to BioWare expecting things to come together magically under crunch time. We talked about this, I think it was the last time we talked about Anthem, was that they have this over focus on the BioWare magic just happening. Well, that doesn't magically happen with an MMO because it's a live service. It requires an ongoing effort. And whenever you have the game fundamentally broken, not just fundamentally broken, but haphazardly thrown together because a suit thought, well, him Iron Manning around is really cool. Let's focus the game around that, and ditch a couple years worth of work and throw the game together in a year and a half. The fact that they tried to throw a game together a year and a half is just absurd, let alone an MMO.
Yeah, I was gonna say for any game, but especially an MMO.
So it's not surprising that they're having to spend so much time putting trying to glue the bits together and replace the bits of string and some chewing gum, maybe a little bit of duct tape holding things together. But the fact that they don't have a guild system it just blows my mind.
Yeah,
a modern MMO that does not have guilds.
Or some equivalent.
That's as stupid as launching a store without user reviews. Or forums, or any social impact whatsoever.
Yeah. The main things that they've added aside, the main things that have changed are a whole list of bug fixes. They added one of their strongholds, which is this game's equivalent to like raids or in-game content. And then some basic quality of life features like being able to access being able to change your equipment while you're in mission or away from the fort, being able to immediately launch into another mission after you complete one instead of having to sit through multiple load screens. I think that's it for their main.
Yeah, didn't they
main changes
go on and on about no load screens whatsoever during their E3 conference?
I don't remember that. I remember a lot of things. I don't remember that.
They talked about a seamless world.
Okay. Maybe that's one of those things I've just heard it so many times from developers. It's just on my ignore
It's just
list.
it's a buzzword that is absolutely meaningless now because seamless world. Okay, well, does that mean that you're just hiding all the bits and string behind the scenes that's holding this piece of shit together?
Yeah.
It's really disheartening because this is what the third game in a row for BioWare that's had some severe problems. Second, third game. It really depends on how you view Dragon Age. Really,
yeah, I was gonna say because Mass Effect,
because
major
Dragon
problems.
Dragon Age is one of those games that is very divisive, and I'm not sure which side I would fall on because I have no interest in playing the modern Dragon Age. Dragon Age pretty much went in a direction that I didn't want it to go. I absolutely loved the first game. Second game, they pushed it towards a more ARPG sense, and that's where they lost me.
Yeah,
Because it was so interesting that they had it, the pseudo turn-based mechanics in the first one, and a lot more strategic combat.
Yeah. I liked Dragon Age Inquisition. Overall, it was kind of like honestly, it felt like an offline MMO to me with the types of questing and the world areas and stuff, which I like. I mean, I could totally understand not liking that, but I like that. So I enjoyed it, but it wasn't without its problems either.
Yeah, that's why it felt like whenever I was looking at it, it was like, oh, this looks so much like an MMO. Only you're alone. It's 22 cans Kingdom of Amalur.
Yeah.
Hey, I pulled the name out of my ass.
You got it though. Kingdoms. The full title is Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning.
Well, I reckon I got that one close enough.
Yeah, I mean, I like Kingdoms of Amalur too, though, for that reason. Yeah, it's like an offline MMO.
Thing, is that it is very. Sorry, I had a thing pop up on my phone. It's like, what's that? Ignore the timer. It's one of those things that if you like that type of questing, fine. But if you don't want a game that's focused around gathering bear asses, then
bear asses
or ask them bears, then you're going to have a problem. And that's the problem is that it's not something I really wanted in a single player MMO I didn't want a single player MMO in my Dragon Age. I was more interested in what Dragon Age was in its initial offering. So that's why let's just call it 2.5. All right,
fair enough.
Because Mass Effect Andromeda, I know you love the story, but it released in such a state it is unforgivable.
That's fair, but I came to Mass Effect Andromeda
way late.
And most, if not all, of the major problems were fixed. So I don't have any context for that scenario. I mean, that's one of the benefits in the modern era of coming to games, of being a patient gamer, is that it's just sort of become the norm for games to release in a bad way. And so you just wait and you pick it up 6 months or a year later.
It feels like such a sucker's bet these days, getting a game within 2 months of its release date in either direction.
Yeah.
It seems like unless you're going into indie or AA territory, AAA gaming pushes their games out way too early. I'm not sure if this is a budgetary problem, if this is just marketing trying to get ahead of the curve so much that they're not budgeting enough time for development, or what. Or if it's just the suits, because we have the situation here with Anthem where when they did their big E3 tech demo, that was the game. That was all they really had going.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing is that I think BioWare. I'm gonna put let's put 20 and 21. I think BioWare is doomed. Either by 2021, they're going to be gone, or they're just going to be what Maxis is now, the name that they attach to Anthem, and that's it.
I think if they pull out a really successful Dragon Age, and that either, even if the rumors that have been like it's basically going to be a Dragon Age MMO or whatever, Dragon Age looter, magicer or whatever,
Looter sorter,
looter sorter,
looter slasher.
Oh yeah, looter slasher. Even if those rumors turn out to be true, either they change it or they actually release a functioning game. Like if they do a good job with the next Dragon Age, they probably will buy themselves some time. I think they'll need 2 really good games in a row to get back in good graces. But if they can pull one out, it'll be like, okay, so are they turning it around or is this a fluke? But if they fuck it up, then, or if EA meddles too much and causes it to be fucked up, then yeah, they're
well, there's no announcement on a release date for Dragon Age: The Dread Wolf Rises. What was this, a pirate game?
That would be so cool. A Dragon Age pirate game. I'd be down for that. Yo-ho, mateys.
Let's see. Oh, there's already controversy around it.
Of course.
Let's see. It's a sequel to Dragon Age Inquisition. So, yeah.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
See, I go with a different thing with hearing Inquisition. The Inquisition, what a show. The Inquisition, here we go. What, Mel Brooks?
Nope, not ringing any bells. I mean, I know who Mel Brooks is. I've seen some things from Mel Brooks, but I don't remember that. Inquisition.
History of the World?
It's been a long time since I've even seen History of the World.
Oh.
And we're in the decade ago range for the last time I saw History of the World.
Oh, well, we're going to have to get you to watch that again.
Put it on the list. So yeah, Anthem. It's still a hot burning dumpster fire that looks like they're just dumping more flaming dumpsters on. They're trying to not do that.
No, don't you understand? They're building a wall of flaming dumpsters around the trash fire.
What they're doing is they're defending themselves from the White Walkers. They bought into Game of Thrones a little too hard with all that fantasy and sci-fi stuff they've created over the years. And so they're like, aha, we must defend ourselves. So they built a moat and filled it with flaming dumpsters full of copies of Anthem.
No, what they did was they built a castle and it sank into the swamp. And now they're putting a patch onto the castle and it's sinking into the swamp.
So then they're going to put a patch on the castle in the swamp.
And it's going to catch on fire, then sink into the swamp. But yeah, I hate kind of tap dancing on this because I don't want BioWare to go away because they were a good game development company. But the thing is, BioWare today is a shadow of what they were. This is the zombie husk of BioWare kind of shuffling around at this point.
Yeah.
So that's why I'll be surprised if by the end of 2021, essentially 2 years from now or 2.5 years from now, they're still around. It really depends on the upcoming Dragon Age. And I'm not even sure if that's going to save them. Especially if some of the rumors are true about it being another MMO. Or are they going to become the MMO company?
Which is
just sad considering the talent that BioWare once had.
Yeah. Agreed. If they ever get it fixed, I still want Anthem, though. I want to be Iron Man in a cool-looking sci-fi world.
What you don't want to be is locked in the crypt.
Oh, God. Fucking no. Nice segment. I approve. So Mortal Kombat 11 is having some microtransaction shenanigans. Mortal Kombat has had issues with microtransactions its last couple of outings, maybe farther back than that.
Doubled down.
Yeah, because I don't play Mortal Kombat or really fighting games, and you don't either. So I just know what I've heard from the news over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that fighting games, they tend to be exploitative of their consumer base, almost to the degree of sports games, which is rather shocking, huh? That seems to be the two worst ones because they're sort of captive audiences. And yeah, so let's just dive into this. This is going to, the show notes is going to link to 2 Reddit posts. So take this with a bit of a grain of salt, but there's not people here saying that they're wrong. That's the thing, is I started looking for people saying that they were miscalculating, and there's people saying, no, that sounds about right. So the first one is Mortal Kombat. If you get perfect luck on the store, which that's kind of the what some people are pointing out. Well, you're not going to be able to buy everything, but if you could, it would be $6,440 to buy every skin in the game without grinding. Assuming that you have perfect luck and are checking back at the store every 6 to 8 hours. That's just absurd.
Yeah, that's too much. The way that it has worked their last couple of outings is they've added this system called the Crypt, where that it's like a weird.
Well, that's not even this. That's part of it, I should say.
Where you cut out for a second. What did you say?
I was saying that's not quite this, but it is part of it because it does have the currency mechanic in it as well.
So you earn some currency by just playing, and then as you went through the Crypt, you would unlock stuff.
Let's put it this way. It's a mobile game.
Yeah, and then you would, there were milestones where you'd unlock chests that had more money, and then you can use those to buy stuff. And one of the things that you could buy being those instant finisher tokens or whatever they were. So whenever you want to fight, you could just pay one of those and do a finishing move.
Yeah, because that really shows your skill, right?
Yeah. Definitely shows your skill.
But if you don't want to pay and just want to grind out everything, okay, according to this guy, he got 760 time crystals, with a K, of course, after 4 hours of gameplay, which at that rate, it would be 3,390 hours to unlock every single skin. To be fair, you don't need every single skin, but it gives you an idea of just how much microtransactions in this game.
Well, I mean, maybe you don't need every skin, but I bet there'd be lots of people who do want to collect all of them or most of them.
Or play several characters.
Yeah.
Because I know in fighting games, you tend to main a particular character or 2 or 3. So, yeah, that's quite a bit of grinding. And that's not even counting the other thing where they were talking about how the harder towers, the challenge modes, are impossible without rare or better gear and single-use consumables, and earning those is also very grindy, and the entire system seems to be designed around getting you to spend money.
Of course it would be. They want you to spend money.
Because it's a free-to-play mobile game. Oh, wait. It's kind of funny that there's all this talk about fighting games being dead, particularly on PC. They're not dead. They're being killed. Yeah. Because I see a new top-end game coming out, a new Street Fighter, which Street Fighter 5, I think is the latest one that released in a pretty much a bare-bones state to just try to get out before a major tournament. And now this, and the previous one, the previous Mortal Kombat also had monetization issues. So yeah, it's just, why bother, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big fighting game guy, so this doesn't affect me too much directly, but it still is shitty practices, and I hate that the people who really enjoy the game are going to be forced to deal with this crap.
Yeah, and they also, Shai Kong, which is one of the mainstays, was a pre-order bonus, and you can't get them any other way except for, putting down some real money. They already have several characters locked away, some of which are, very popular, because of course they are. And that's the other thing that's kind of shitty, is that they lock behind paywalls, popular characters to, force out more money. It's just it keeps me away from even wanting to deal with the fighting game genre to even try to get good.
Yeah, I agree.
And I know some people are probably thinking, well, why should we care? Because we don't like fighting games. Well, the cancer can spread. So, it may be confined to sports games and fighting games for now, but, well, we've seen it pop up in, let's pick one almost at random. How about a Star Wars game?
Oh, would it happen to be a Star Wars Battlefront game?
Well, it has to be because they haven't done anything else with the license yet.
Oh, I see which way you took that sick burn. Well done, sir. I approve.
I mean, it's just, that's also a ridiculous one. It's just, exclusive license and they do absolutely nothing with it except for, put it in a game that has absolutely just abhorrent microtransactions.
Yeah, they recently announced the new single-player Star Wars game, but I have no hope or faith that it's going to be any good.
Well, they've already said that it's kind of funny. There's back-to-back tweets talking about how there's no microtransactions, but then the follow-up marketing tweet is trust no one.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. I remember seeing that. It's like, don't worry, I'm not trusting anyone. At least not from EA.
I don't trust really any AAA gaming these days. But then again, I'm a little cynical ball of hate. Or a big cynical ball of hate.
You are a true cynic.
Well, if they would prove me wrong once in a while, then maybe I would change my tune. But if anything, they prove my cynicism right time and time again.
Yeah, that is a very, very fair point.
I mean, it's not like I'm ignoring evidence. If anything, the evidence reinforces my cynicism. That's why I say it feels like a sucker's bet to buy a game within 2 months of release in either direction these days, not just pre-order. I'm not going to amend the first commandment due to it yet, but it's starting to feel that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, just what was the last AAA game that we haven't seen major news stories about it being utterly broken in one way or another within this year? To be fair, we haven't seen many AAA games yet, but it's starting to get depressing.
Yep, I'll stick to my indies and EVE Online, I guess. I'll stick to those.
I think I'll stick to, still Stardew Valley because I have to finish the Game Club stuff, but Yakuza 0 has been pretty good to me.
Yeah. Way to go, Yakuza. It's good to have other interests, though. Good to have
really,
2 or 3 sort of hobbies that you enjoy.
Yeah, really looking forward to October now. Whew.
Yeah. I hope you enjoy that. I don't know if you want to actually say what it is at this point or not.
Well, I'm heading to Anime Con. Maybe if there's someone interested, we could do a meetup. I don't know. But it's more of a regional thing or a regional convention. But this is the 16th annual one. It's just this is the first one I've been able to go to. I didn't realize that they had one locally until 2 years ago, but I just didn't have the money to go to it.
Yeah.
And then last year I had to move, so I didn't have the money then. But this time around, I think I'm just going to go ahead and get a hotel room because the local bus system, it's good, but it's bad as well. The last bus that leaves town to head back my way leaves at 9:00 in the evening. So, I'll miss out a good chunk of content, right?
Right. I hope you enjoy it. And I mean, I think you will. It's a little ways away, but I was really happy for you when you told me. Like, that doesn't sound weird, but like, you're my friend, and so hearing that you're gonna go do something cool like makes me happy.
Plus, I also shared the schedule with you, and you saw, here's things I would like.
Oh yeah, definitely hot anime dad.
As soon as I saw that on there, because I looked at it last year, and I was like, oh yeah, I would enjoy this. There's quite a few things. Like I found the calligraphy really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the nerdier things that aren't just anime on the schedule. But I was scrolling through it again after sending it to you and saw Hot Dads in Anime. It's like, well, why didn't I just tell Jared about this and be done with it?
I'm there, Hot Dads in Anime.
I mean, you're anything if predictable.
Yep. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I so need to get you into The Magician because I think you'll actually fall in love with Elliot. He's about as I would say he's like at your most flamboyant. He's about 3 or 4 notches beyond that.
Nice. I enjoy watching that. I think I would hate like being his friend, but I enjoy like watching, experiencing that in short bursts.
I'm very tempted to go hunt down a clip for you. As a matter of fact, I think I will.
Well, you do that. And while you do that, I'll move us on to Community Corner. I actually didn't think to check to see if we had any emails or not. And do we have any tweets before I start talking about
there was no tweets. And I didn't see any emails.
Just double checking. No. Cool. So yeah, this past week we played Rocket League for Community Game Night. I already told you about my sad computer escapade. But otherwise, it was a smaller night this week. It's a little more intimate. Wink. But I still had a good time. Rocket League might not be in the rotation very frequently, though. We will see how everyone holds up in the long run. But I don't want to make people play games that they didn't have a good time with. So
yeah.
Which makes it sound bad. It wasn't. Yeah. We generally had a good time, but there were some frustrations, and so we cube quit a little early, and then we were gonna start winding down a little sooner, I think, than usual when my computer exploded. And
yeah, didn't we start to talk about what to do next, and then your computer just said, nope, no more.
Yep. We were talking about what we were gonna do, and Ghost said he was gonna be gone next week, and we were like, oh, you should pick something, and then yeah, so that didn't work out. So I don't know what we're doing next week. It'll be another one of those things where I post in the Discord and be like, hey, what's up? Although I'm thinking about maybe just taking next week off from Community Game Night. Excuse me, to get a little more time in for Game Club. I mean,
I don't. Terrible idea.
I don't expect to get, all the way through 3 years of Stardew Valley.
Oh no!
But it would be nice to have, an extra 2 or 3 hours to just do a little more time in.
A minute, you're going to go mine.
I'm going to do some more mining. First, I need to cough up my lungs. I'm going to go do some more mining. I mean, but really, what is mining but underground farming? When you really think about it. But
it doesn't work like that.
But yeah, just get a little more time in that. Actually, now that I'm sort of saying that out loud, unless you object, I think that's just what we'll do this week.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Okie dokie.
So it is written, so it shall come to pass?
Indeed, so it shall come to pass.
So it is written. Are you writing this?
I'm going to say yes.
So we had no email, we had no tweets, so we have music?
Indeed.
But before we do that, if you wish to resolve our lack of content in the community corner, you do so, bglpodcast@gmail.com, or tweet to us, bglpodcast on, their bird platform that may be tweeting. Gee, I wonder where that would be. Anyway, music.
Indeed. And I closed all of my Steam tabs.
Don't worry, I have one immediately off the bat, and I had my discovery queue loaded. So, Katana Zero.
Oh, hey, that's my first one. You go ahead, go for it.
Is a stylish a neo-noir action platformer featuring breakneck action and instant death combat. Metroidvania. I mean, let's be perfectly honest here. It actually looks pretty good, though. But it looks like it's not just Metroidvania. There's some vehicle segments as well. If the screenshots are anything to go by, it looks interesting, and it has some good reviews, and it's published by Devolver Digital, so usually some fairly decent at very worst. So yeah, I would say definitely worth a check out.
Yeah, this doesn't look like the kind of game that I would enjoy. I mean, it doesn't look bad, just not like something that's up my alley. But I mean, that's okay. Not all games have to be designed for me.
Wise. I mean, what type of suit are you? All games have to be accessible to anyone and everyone, as long as they're willing to pay for it.
Well, this is interesting looking. Let me get a link. It's called Embark. It has a lot of words that make me feel happy. Inspired by the deep simulation of Dwarf Fortress, the open world survival of Minecraft, and the social interaction of The Sims, Embark is a colony management sim with a focus on complex simulation and a huge living 3D world. So,
how do you like?
Yeah, sign me up for that, as long as it's good.
I mean, as soon as they said Dwarf Fortress, this has a very Minecraft look to it.
It does. It also looks very...
I should say in the world design.
It looks very similar as well to... What was that game called? Mercury Fallen?
Mm-hmm.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, it does. Fantasy version of it. Overly complicated games. I approve of this this development team's name.
So it doesn't look like it's the same developer or anything. Maybe there's just like a module in Unity or something that makes it look this way.
Well, it's a very it's not a very unique look, I think, is the way to put it.
Yeah,
maybe it's some pre-bought assets for the people, but it has a different camera than the other one did.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I definitely feel like there's some pre-bought assets here.
Which is okay.
Sure. Well, yeah, I'm not calling this a talentless asset flip. Actually, quite the opposite. But yeah, artistically, it doesn't look very engaging, but it looks like they're doing some interesting things with the game mechanics, assuming that they keep on track, because it is an early access game. Approximately how long will it be in early access? At least a year or two. So hang on to your butts.
At least a year or two. Very specific.
At least they're being honest and not saying, "Oh, it'll be ready in 6 months."
Fair.
And it's definitely not a cheap one either. $25 going in with probably, let's just check. The price will not change when they leave early access, so it's going to stay this price. Probably have a sale price at some point though. So, my turn?
Yeah.
I ended up taking yours. But Pagan Online is a fast-paced hack-and-slash action RPG that will challenge your skill in brutal, satisfying combat against countless enemies and larger-than-life bosses. Interesting looking. I mean, ARPGs are kind of in a renaissance right now. There seem to be coming back more and more. I've seen some people talking about this, and I don't think the online component is actually active just yet. So that's something to watch out for. So, but it is an early access title. It looks interesting enough. I'm not sure how it'll play overall, because ARPGs is one of those games that it's very hit or miss for particular people. And this is produced by Wargaming. Let's see, Mad Head Games. Let's see if they have a fairly long repertoire at least. So it should get finished in theory. But what?
No, just this game. My next game. It's not like weird or crazy. I'm just surprised to see it, but it makes me oddly happy.
Oh no. All right, let's see. Oh, I just got an embark on my queue. Queue?
Snooker 19. Maybe it's just the word snooker I think is funny. And for anyone who doesn't know, snooker is very similar to pool. There's a few different rules and stuff. It to the, I guess, uninformed or the uninitiated, it looks nearly the same, but all the balls are red. There's a few different rules, and I think the table's a different size as well. But I like playing snooker. It's been a while since I've played it, but I like playing pool.
Are you saying snooker made you snicker?
Oh, and you broke up while you were telling me your pun.
Snooker made you snicker?
Yeah, snooker did make me snicker. I mean, this doesn't look any like particularly special or weird or anything, but just like this is the first time I've thought about snooker in a while, and it made me giggle because I was kind of happy about it. So I just wanted to mention it. I like snooker.
Huh. I just got something interesting looking. Are we going to do 2 today since, well, we're still sub 2 hours?
What time is it? 11:45. Are you through your whole queue already?
I'm only about halfway through. I was asking.
Yeah, let's just stick to 1.
Zombotron. Fight and survive on a mysterious alien planet. Outwit its ferocious inhabitants. So, Metroidvania adventure again. This looks like it has just the way it was designed, or some of the screenshots it almost looked like it was turn-based combat, but it's not as far as I can tell. Yeah, it's not. It's just maybe it's just the going off of Steam World Heist. I had to sit and take for a moment. It had a similar feel to it. Yeah, it looks like once again sort of a pseudo Metroidvania game with a lot slower, more. Sluggish is probably not the right word because that sounds a bit derogatory, but more deliberate combat than most Metroidvanias.
Gotcha.
I'm not even sure Metroidvania is the proper term for this, but it says cult classic. Is this based off something, or is this a reimagining of something? It looks like okay. It looks like this is either a remake or like a remaster of an old Flash game that I just don't recognize. So yeah.
So this game, my next game, is making me laugh because it's silly and cool looking.
Oh, boy.
It's called Boss Guard. BOSSGARD. Who's the boss? It's finally you. One big bad player-controlled boss goes against a team of Vikings, each with special abilities. Enter Boss Guard, a hectic 1v5 boss fight multiplayer game, which you get to crush your friends as the boss. It's got mixed local and online multiplayer. It says that you can enter with multiple people playing locally against other players online, and it's silly. It's silly. There's like down about halfway down, silly bosses. Who needs a giant skeleton king when you can have giant evil baked goods?
Shrek 2.
So I like the idea behind this and the aesthetic, and right underneath that, International Vikings. Yeah, classic Vikings are great, but have you ever played with a Japanese Viking wielding a Gatling gun? Well, now you can. Like, so as long as it nails the tone properly and it doesn't across as feeling kind of like, I don't know, Goat Simulator or something, sounds like it will be a lot of fun with just the silliness factor.
What type of game is this? Beat 'em up. All right.
It's yeah.
All right. Well, interesting. I got one that may be your cup of tea. Okay. I know you like your strategy games at times.
I do like those.
A turn-based strategy game. This is Sigma Theory, Global Cold War. A turn-based strategy game in a futuristic global Cold War from the award-winning creators of Out There. I don't recognize Out There. Let's see. Recruit a squad of special agents and run your intel agency to secure the control of the Singularity. So sci-fi Cold War. It's one of those games that, look at the screenshots, it looks like overworld is a little bit jumbled. It's tough to really get a feel for what the gameplay is actually like. Just look at screenshots. It's, that's kind of the problem with I'm sorry. I'm looking at the trailers trying to get a feel for gameplay, and they don't show any gameplay, or what gameplay they do show is just very small segments. But interesting to say the least. Always fun to find different takes on the strategy genre. And it's actually fairly cheap, and it is an early access game though. Let's see, how long are we going to be in early access? 3 to 6 months. Hey, 6 months. Right?
Yeah. 6 to 12 months.
It seems to like to be the de facto. 6 months is like the average of what they think is going to be early access. Huh. You got another one, or are you done?
I'm at the last game on my list. I just got to it. Did you have? No, you okay.
I haven't put one yet.
Hyper Jam.
Okay, it's not next up on me, so I'll go ahead and put mine next, or my next one. All right, let's jam.
Hyper Jam is a neon-soaked arena brawler full of lethal weapons, stackable power-ups, furious combat, and killer synthwave soundtrack. It's very what's the right word that I'm looking for? It looks very Far Cry Blood Dragon-y in some of these screenshots.
Where everything is neon.
Everything is neon, and I like that aesthetic.
It's like first game on Steam by these guys, either publisher or developer. It's self-published.
Yeah, but it looks cool. Just a simple twin stick. Yeah.
Well, it looks like some sort of PvP aspect available, but not required. They have an early access tag on this, but it's not in early access. I'm not sure if it released or it's been out for a while.
I don't see early access on here.
In the tags, click the plus to see the full popular user-defined tags for this product, and it's on there.
I gotcha.
4-player local co-op, though. Looks like it released in February, so it's been a while.
Yeah. So that was my last game, and also the last game in my queue.
Well, I still have at least one more. Feather. Feather is a serene game about exploration and immersion in a beautiful landscape. Become a bird and fly around and lose yourself in a zen-like flow whilst listening to soothing ambient soundtrack. So a zen exploration game. Which, there's nothing wrong with that. It looks interesting enough. It really depends on, it doesn't feel like you're flying in this, really. Let's see, play as a bird and with responsive and fluid flight controls. So there's a few games where you're a bird flying around, but it really, like I said, how's it a handle, right? Or if it's just an exploration game. Looks like it's very short, though, according to this. It's a game where you explore an open area for 20 to 30 minutes. If you're okay with 20 minutes of relaxing experience, go for it. So there you go. There's the big negative.
I like 20 minutes of relaxing.
Yeah, but as an owl?
Yeah, I like owls. They're cute. Also very dangerous. Or very deadly. But yeah, I'm done with my queue, so.
Well, I got a visual novel. Settle down, Chief. It's not that type of visual novel. Yet. It is the all-age version. Trinoline all-ages version. Trinoline. One summer day, Shun meets a girl who is the spitting image of his dead sister. Well, we'll see where this is going. She turns out to be a high-tech android indistinguishable from a human being. Bet you saw that one coming, huh? So begins a touching tale of a world where androids and humans can coexist. So, sci-fi visual novel. It looks like there is some sexy content that is cut, but they said that a patch, the dev said a patch should be inbound for the game, but has not been released as of yet. So yeah, it's a $35 visual novel, so up there. I'm gonna have to do a quick search on the visual novel database for this game.
Okay.
Just to get an idea on length on this. Let's see. It is considered a medium-length novel in the 10 to 30-hour range. With and they do have the tag low sexual content, so there's not a lot there, but boy, there's some interesting tags on that. And for those who want to go check it out, it's vndb.org.
Visual novel database.
Yeah, imagine that.
Right? IMDb.
Yeah, whenever I come across a visual novel, I go there to check it out just to get an idea of its rating. It's not rated very much, but it's in the about 7.29, which is in the good range. And this runs on the IMDb rating system, where 7 is not considered cancer. So it looks like a pretty decent visual novel with some sci-fi themes. And how did I get this? This is more your speed.
What is it?
Okay. I'll put it on here just for you because I know this is going to be, this is like an instant buy for you. So they're their visual novel. And this time, yes, it is that type of visual novel. Breeding Village.
Oh, God.
I mean, damn. I mean, just look at the screenshots on this.
Uh-huh. That is a barely and also poorly pixelated vagina and anus on the front store page. So,
oh, don't worry. Go a bit deeper.
Hang on. There is a stink bug crawling across my desk.
Yeah, let's just put it this way. Visual Novel Database does not rate this very highly.
Still being pest control, man.
And let's put it this way. It's sexual content tags outrank pretty much all its other tags. So, yeah, it's that type of game.
Oh, I smushed it too much, and now it stinks.
Much like that visual novel?
Yeah. Although I think I prefer the visual novel to a stink bug. I'll try and edit out the shoe slamming. I don't know how much that came through the mic. Probably plenty.
Enough that it sounded like you smashed a stink bug.
It's that time of year. They're out here.
They haven't hit here yet. So, I'm thankful for that. But then again, my apartment complex does monthly spraying. So, that's the benefit of having to wake up early the second to last Tuesday of the month. Stupid bug guy.
Yeah, we've got a buy that comes, but it's not every month.
Yeah, my last game looks like a very poor horror game that's not even worth talking about.
Sweet. Well, then that means it's time for me to say, hey, Rage, hit him with the socials.
Well, if you wish to contact us, once again, it is vglpodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet us to us at VGL Podcast on the Twitter. But once again, I've been Caffeine Rage. You can find me over on YouTube, Gaming with Caffeine Rage. You can find me on Twitter, Gaming with CR. Or you can find me maybe someday on Twitch, twitch.tv/caffeine_rage. See, I thought I'd throw the podcast ones in there as well.
Well done. And I've been Gaming Psychologist. You can find me over on YouTube by searching for Gaming Psychologist. There we go. You can find me over on Twitter at JMA4707. And if you want to chat with me on Steam, you can do so by sending a friend request to JArthur4707.
And if you're supposed to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is salsa.
Salsa.
The king of Tex-Mex condiments, right?
Indeed. I want some salsa right now. I probably won't have any chips and salsa, but I want some.
Yeah, because it's probably a little bit bad for you, right?
Yeah, it's too late for me to be putting carbs like that in my body. Too close
Didn't
to
stop you before.
I wasn't diabetic before.
True. Well, you should have gone for the early access buy on that body, you know? You should have worked for some, wait for the at least the 1.1 patch.
Yeah, I wish my body had a 1.1 patch.
Oh, I've already done VGLpodcast@gmail.com or VGL Podcast on the Twitter. Our lovely, lovely patrons have helped pay for this absolute madness. Patreon.com/VGL Podcast. See, I always screw up at least something in this. If you wish to learn more, and our patrons have paid for our Podbean account, and we are totally grateful for you. VGLpodcast.podbean.com, which hosts the show notes, our RSS feed. If you wish to catch us on the regular outside of YouTube, or you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, or your podcatcher of choice. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kim McLeod, and Doobly Doo is our Discovery Cue music by the same artist. You can find all his work at incompetech.com, and
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See you next time.